This is Matthew Cratter from Bitcoin University. Today I want to answer the question, is Bitcoin a good file storage solution? No, it's actually not. To begin with, Bitcoin blocks are quite small by modern data standards, obviously, and the Bitcoin blockchain is quite small by modern data standards. The maximum size measured by block weight for a Bitcoin block is 4 megabytes, and the current size of the entire Bitcoin blockchain, which is all the transactions since January of 2009, is just 644 gigabytes. So we're talking about very small amounts of data. Small blocks and a small blockchain is a feature, not a bug, as we've talked about many times on this channel. The Bitcoin blockchain needs to be easy to download and verify anywhere in the world using relatively cheap hardware and low bandwidth. And we want to keep it easy for anyone in the world to run their own Bitcoin node and use it for transacting. That's how you keep Bitcoin decentralized. You have economic nodes run by real Bitcoiners doing their own transactions on the Bitcoin network and not relying on Trezor's node or Ledger's node or Coinbase's node. If you're not running your own Bitcoin node, you're forced to use someone else's node and by extension to trust them. Further, the last 15 years of Bitcoin history show that the Bitcoin ethos has always discouraged people from storing arbitrary data on the blockchain, since doing so can take up block space that should be used for a much more important function, namely monetary transactions on Bitcoin. Here's an example from 2014 in a release of Bitcoin Core where they added op return. Again, this is 2014, very early on in Bitcoin's history. There's been some confusion and misunderstanding in the community regarding the op return feature in version 0.9 and data in the blockchain. This change is not an endorsement of storing data on the blockchain. The op return change creates a provably prunable output, in other words, a transaction output, in order to avoid data storage schemes that were storing arbitrary data such as images as forever unspendable transaction outputs, bloating Bitcoin's UTXO database. So this is the historical Bitcoin ethos. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support the channel by clicking that subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the like button, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future topic, and share this video with a friend or family member. Now, op return was created, as we said, as an outlet for people who are bent on embedding arbitrary data on the chain, and this was an outlet that sought to minimize the impact on the blockchain by keeping it very small in terms of data. Op return is an opcode that's still used to mark a transaction output as unspendable, and this signals that it is safe for a node to delete the data after downloading it. Now, was this historical attempt to keep arbitrary data on the blockchain from overwhelming the monetary uses of the blockchain ever considered censorship over the course of Bitcoin's history? Of course it wasn't. Filtering is and was an attempt by Bitcoiners themselves to keep out the majority of obvious spam from filling up blocks. It's not a government attempt at censoring monetary transactions. That's a very big difference between these two things. If you want to see what an op return looks like, here's one from a block from July 8th, 2023, and we can see the op return here is the output of a transaction. So we have the input to the transaction. We have two outputs, one of which is actually monetary. And then we have op return here, and this records, it looks like the birth of a child, Oriana Silva Gomez, born at a certain block height. And so this is the compromise that was made to allow people to store a little bit of data in the blockchain and not bloat it and make it provably prunable. If you want to store larger amounts, say you want to store this paragraph from the Declaration of Independence, what you can do is you can put it through a hash function like SHA-256. You end up with a hash. In this case, the output of a 256-bit hash is a 32-bit or 32-byte hash. And so you could embed this in the op return instead, and anyone would know who saw this. You could prove to them that this input produces this output. You can't do the reverse, but this would be a way of essentially compressing data or the hash of the data and storing it on the blockchain. Now, since the debut of Ordinals, inscriptions, etc., has there been a huge demand to inscribe things like this, like the Declaration of Independence, maybe the Cypherpunks Manifesto or other amazing freedom documents, as the promoters of Ordinals always tell us? Actually, no. Everyone wants to fill up blocks with garbage transactions like this instead. This is because the whole Ordinals revolution, it's not about putting freedom documents on the blockchain. It's about crypto VCs using Bitcoin to scam people. And they justify it by saying that's going to bring lots of new people to Bitcoin. How well is that working out? Well, based on what I've seen on Twitter, it's actually driving a lot of people away and associating Bitcoin with scams and with losing money. Bitcoin sucks. I've wasted like 25K doing this during this stupid Ordinals season. So we can see that that's just really a cover for crypto VC saying this is going to increase adoption of Bitcoin. Bringing gamblers like this over to Bitcoin or scams on Bitcoin and having them lose money is not a recipe for Bitcoin adoption. It doesn't teach people how to run nodes, how to use hardware wallets, and how to make real Bitcoin transactions. Finally, what about Satoshi? Did he intend for Bitcoin to be used as a file storage solution? No, rather he intended it to be used as a monetary system, as we can see quite clearly from the white paper. But didn't Satoshi do an inscription on the blockchain when he said he put this newspaper headline, The Times, January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on the brink of a second bailout for banks? No, that data was stored in the Coinbase, which is the small data area reserved for Bitcoin miners. That has nothing to do with crypto casino Coinbase. And Satoshi did not inscribe this data as a flex. He did not immediately turn around and try to sell it as an NFT. Including this data in the Coinbase was Satoshi's way of critiquing the fiat banking system, obviously pointing out the need for a second bailout, while at the same time Satoshi was demonstrating that Bitcoin had no pre-mine, since the Genesis block where this headline was embedded, since this Genesis block could not have come before the newspaper headline that it included, the January 3rd, 2009 headline. And so we were able to know that there was no pre-mine with Bitcoin. Conclusion, the Bitcoin blockchain is not a good file storage system. It was never intended to be. The Bitcoin ethos has always been, until very recently, to try to minimize the usage of the chain for non-monetary purposes. So don't let grifting crypto VCs tell you otherwise, even if their organization has Bitcoin in the name. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.